Here's another knife that Gearbest sent me. This is the Cima C896. Comes with a very helpful box that tells you where to open it in case you need that. So let's take a look here. Comes with this little manual here. Let's see how amusing the English translation is. In the course of use, we must pay attention to cutting, puncture, grinding process of trajectory may encounter objects and people and their own body to prevent injury. Okay. Yeah, please keep the tool. Don't lend yourself to others so as to avoid unnecessary trouble. I guess in other words, don't sell your body to people to be able to afford knives. Well, fortunately, it's not very expensive. This knife here is currently available for $53.87 Canadian dollars, but there will probably be a sale or promo code in the video description. Anyway, so it comes in this black Kydex sheath, which holds the knife in very securely. So you can only hear just a tiny little bit of noise, but it is a pretty tight fit. And the blade itself really puts the hawk in Hawkbill, doesn't it? If you even want to call it a Hawkbill blade. So it's got this very pronounced beak right here. And that's really the kind of the predominant feature of this design. So the steel is AUS 8 or AUS 8, depending on how you want to pronounce it, which is a Japanese-made stainless steel. It's got 0.75% carbon, and it is an affordable kind of mid-range steel that has generally a good reputation. It's easy to sharpen. Well, there's some disagreement about the edge retention. Some people say it's not very good, others say it holds the edge just fine. So it's the usual thing. Edge retention is somewhat subjective. It's also got very good corrosion resistance, and the hardness is 58 to 59 HRC. So pretty interesting shape right here. What I can say about the handle right off the bat is it is a very practical shape. It's quite comfortable in the hand. This is G10. You can see it's overall a fairly simple looking handle, but it is definitely well designed. The way it swells towards the end helps keep it in the hand, and it just kind of really fills out the palm. And then the jimping right here is where the thumb rests naturally. I like this degree of jimping. It's just the right kind of amount to give you plenty of traction for the thumb without being uncomfortable. And with this finger choil up here, you can choke up. You can put the thumb there as well where it rests naturally. And you can also choke up further if you want for more control over the point. So really ergonomics wise, I can't say anything negative about it at all. G10 in itself is a pretty comfortable handle material, and the shape here contributes to that as well. You can see it's beveled, or I guess technically chamfered would be a better term. So nice and rounded. You don't have any harsh corners, and particularly on the back here, you can see how that's rounded. There's also a bit of jimping here, which I don't think makes any real difference. Maybe a little bit, because it does rest against the palm, but either way, it doesn't get in the way or anything. So yeah, very good handle. I definitely like that. Obviously, the blade shape is what makes this unique. It's quite an extreme shape. See, it's very strongly sweeping down here. There is a fairly pronounced belly there as well, which is generally useful for cutting. Now, this is, of course, much more specialized. It's less of a kind of general all-purpose design, because this can get a little bit in the way for some tasks. In particular, if you're trying to cut something on a flat surface, then it's really just the point that's available. If you have another kind of design, like this, for example, it does actually allow you to cut on a flat surface with a substantial amount of edge because it curves away from it. This, since it curves toward, the point just wants to dig in before you can make contact with the edge. Now, if you're cutting something at an angle like this, that's of course not a problem, but that's something to keep in mind. Now, of course, the point itself is also sharp and can be used, so if you wanted to cut like that, that is definitely an option. And you can also, if the material, like in this case, is a little bit away from the flat surface and is somewhat squishy, then you can definitely start the cut with the belly of the blade like this, and then it will dig in with the point. With a more irregular surface like this, of course, not a problem. This gel here is pretty tough to cut, but works quite well. You know, either with the edge or with the tip. So this is one of those designs that allow you to use the point for, well, cutting or tearing, I suppose, if the blade gets dull. And speaking of dull blade, this is one of the drawbacks of this kind of design. This is a little bit more difficult to sharpen. If you have a flat stone, you know, let's just assume that this was a stone. This would be quite large for a sharpening stone, but you wouldn't get the entire edge this way. So you need either a rod, like a ceramic rod, or a narrower stone for sharpening. It's a bit more challenging that way. I think something like the Spyderco Sharpmaker would come in really handy. But yeah, if you are in the situation that the knife becomes dull and there's still the point of this leather here, you've probably seen that in one of the older videos, this stuff is really tough and very thick. So you could dig in here with the point and try to cut that way. Again, this stuff is super tough, kind of ridiculous, as you can probably see here. It's just, yeah, you don't really get terribly far with that. But with the point here, I may actually be able to get somewhere if I keep digging in. Yeah, I think I'm through most of the way. Yeah, there it is. So can definitely be very handy for tougher materials. Yeah, there we are. Of course, it can also be used for carving. Now, this is not really good material to demonstrate with. You can see how dead and dry that is. But the nice thing here is because it's forward curved, it's not going to slip off as easily on carving, because this point here, it's kind of beak catches it. Here's the sharpness of the factory edge. Not terribly impressed by this, I have to say. Particularly towards the end here, it gets thicker and duller. Yeah, you can see right here, this is where it stops essentially. Which is kind of a shame, because this could be quite useful for a variety of tasks if it was sharper. And you can hear that probably, that the paper is getting torn a little bit. So it's just about acceptable, but it should be sharper in my opinion, particularly here. Of course, it cuts cardboard just fine. And this is also a good use for that sort of point. When you're opening boxes that are taped up, this will really get right in there and open it easily. So you can do quite a lot with this point. That's what I really like about this kind of design. It's also nice that this point is very sturdy. It's quite thick, and you can actually even kind of hack into material with the point, and you can pry with it without having to worry about that. So if I hack it in here, pry it a little bit left to right, the point is still fine. It's not going to bend from that. I quite like the Sheath with this tack lock style belt attachment. So if you put the safety on, it's not going to go anywhere. If you turn it off, you can push it in, open it up, and attach it easily to the belt. And there are these two bars here that you can put in different positions to adjust to your individual belt width. So that's really quite handy. And the Sheath also has a drain hole right there. You can probably see that better when the knife is inside, because then you might be able to see the steel through it. So yeah, if moisture gets in there, then this will drain it right there. So I said, a rather specialized design, not quite as versatile as some other blade types, but I do like the options that the recurve edge gives you, and particularly also this point here, kind of heavy duty point for more challenging tasks. And as far as the build quality is concerned, I don't have any significant complaints. The fit of the handle scales is really good. There's no visible gap anywhere, and the finish overall is excellent, with the exception of the grind lines. They are not quite as even as they could be, and particularly the edge grind here. I mean, it's nothing majorly off that would affect the function in any way, with the exception of, as I said, the edge being a little thicker than I think it should be and not quite as sharp. So it's good to touch it up a little bit. And of course, as mentioned, the drawback of this being more difficult to sharpen. But otherwise, ergonomics wise, absolutely no complaints. This is really good. Ergonomics are great, as said. I have no issue with that at all. It fits my hand absolutely perfectly. This is certainly quite well designed. As far as I know, this is their own design. I sure hope that it's not actually a clone or lookalike. I've done some digging and didn't find anything, so it does seem to be their own design. I would definitely recommend that, especially on a sale. As I said, the link will be down below, and I hope you found the review helpful. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a good one.